हाय वेलकम टू दिस अनदर एपिसोड विद मी आशी, जहां पे हम बात करने वाले हैं एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक के बारे में, दैट इज जैट। जैट का एग्जाम 8 जनवरी को है। हमारे पास कुछ ही दिन बचे हुए हैं एंड जस्ट टू हेल्प यू आउट विद ऑल योर क्वेश्चंस व्हिच कम्स टू योर माइंड, आई हैव two very important people with me who are current students of Exhilarai Jamshedpur. I have Avijit Dhawan and Aman Joshi. Let's say आपका एग्जाम हो गया है, नाउ यू आर लाइक रिलैक्स्ड, अच्छा स्कोर आ रहा है, अच्छा स्कोर नहीं आ रहा है। नाउ द सेकंड लेवल ऑफ शॉर्ट लिस्टिंग, जब आपको कॉल्स आएंगे फ्रॉम एक्सिलराई जमशेदपुर और एक्सिलराई दिल्ली, राइट? तो व्हाट इज द नेक्स्ट स्टेज ऑफ शॉर्ट लिस्टिंग? क्या प्रोसेस होता है, किस तरह के क्वेश्चंस होते हैं, कैसे आप प्रिपेयर कर सकते हो? दैट आई जस्ट वांटेड टू अंडरस्टैंड। वी हैव टू काइंड ऑफ पीपल विद मी, वन विद एक्सपीरियंस, general engineer male, right? And on the other hand we have, Abhijit, who is not from engineering background, with zero work experience. So dono ke hisab se kya experience tha and how they can like kind of mug up with the things so that they'll be able to make it to Exhilarai Jamshedpur. Yeah, so we'll start with Abhijit.
So as you rightly mentioned, I'm a non-engineer with a BBA background and no work ex. So I had a low graduation score as well. So and Exhilarai was my best call till now. Like since I mentioned CAD wasn't a CAD because of my sectional cutoff. I didn't clear the sectional cutoff, so it wasn't an option for me. So Exhilarai was the best college I had in mind. And given someone who was already letting go of an MBA at IIM Rohtak, I had a 5-year program at IIM Rohtak, so I was already letting go of an MBA at hand. So a lot of pressure was there personally from my end. So for me, the interviews were really important, even after getting a reasonably decent percentile as that. So I had two strategies in mind. If I had for BM, I knew I had done a lot of internships in the field of marketing, 9 to 10 thanks to COVID. I used the COVID lockdown to good use and did about 10 internships in total in the 3-year period I had during my graduation. All of them were mostly online work from home internships. So I knew this was my strong point. This was a strong point in my profile. Despite being a fresher, I have significant amount of experience in that domain. Other than that, I had a low graduation score and reasonably average academic in school as well. So when you come into Exhilarai, I think almost everyone has a 998, 999 profile. So that factor was playing on my mind. But then, as Aman rightly mentioned in the interview earlier, was we have to focus on your strengths. So I realized that the factor that I've been a zonal level sports person, I've played cricket at one of the highest levels, played with international cricketers as well. That was a strong point in my CV, which not many people will have. But coupled with that, I knew that my internship experience, if I can play the interview and even in the introduction part itself is where you can drive the interview to your favor. So when I was asked to introduce myself, especially in the BM interview for Exhilarai, I set it up in a way that I have been an avid sports person. I have played at a certain level. I have been a school and college captain. Prior to that, I have also had an interest in marketing and HR, so I did internships in that domain. I drove the introduction in a way where the next question would have to be from that particular domain, which my strength is that. So I didn't let the interview go in a direction where my graduation score could have been exposed, right? Or I could have been asked a question where I probably wouldn't be so comfortable answering it. And particularly for the HR interview, I'll go in specific detail. For the BM interview, you will be mostly asked questions related to your work ex, your grad, mostly academic related questions. I was asked questions related to marketing, given my internship background, and a few about sports, cricket, and if I'm not getting that wrong, a marketing campaign about Gillette in general, because I mentioned FMCs like P&G and HUL in my interview as my brand inspiration and all that. So I was asked questions related to that domain. For HRM, to be specific, now HRM can also be a very personality-driven interview. So suddenly I was being asked questions about what my experience was. I was in a new fresh batch at IIM Rohtak, being a first batch of the IPM course at IIM Rohtak, how it molded my personality, to get into Exhilarai. Now suddenly I was being asked questions about my sporting inspiration, what were the value systems I draw for him. And Exhilarai is an institution, even in its interview, it takes high pride in the value system it inculcates in its students. So especially the interviews that will be conducted, particularly for HRM, maybe also for BM, a lot of questions will not just be asked about what you have done professionally or in your school, college, academic background, regarding your value system or who you are as a personality or whatever you believe in, or regarding a social issue, can be regarding a social issue as well. So you really need to be on guard really need to be aware about what you have to say about your own self and what do you want to do in the coming 5 years, the coming 10 years. So this is the question they probably also ask in the SOP of like, how do you see yourself in the next 5 years? And this can be an easy question that they can ask you. So you need to be really well versed with these questions going ahead, because particularly for HRM, because even in HRM, there are a lot of diverse people come from different backgrounds. You have history people getting into XLRI, you have people with the engineering background getting into XLRI, you have people with different percentiles. From 99 percentile might not get into HRM, whereas a 91 percentile also might get into HRM. So it's like they are looking at a very holistic, looking at evaluating a profile from a very holistic perspective. So the personality driven questions for HRM, given that I cleared HRM for Jamshedpur, will be, I think that's what I gauge from my experience, were the core point of my HRM interview. For BM, I think Aman will be in a better position to answer.
One more question I just want that Aman should add. We discussed about personal interview. Uske alawa bhi, I think there might be VAT or GD, which is there in the process, and how to tackle that. This is also something I just want you to add in your conversation.
So I'll not be the best judge to actually tell about VAT and GD, because both of our batches, even Avijit's batch, did not get to sit for a VAT, or because in the online setting it was very difficult for most of them to conduct. Now I'll move on to my XLR Jamshedpur interview experience. So I'll give you some background. So in the past, in 2020, I converted IIM Bangalore and FMLT, and due to some personal reasons, I had to leave that. So I just practiced enough TM questions so that I don't mess up. So I think my ratio was 13-10. So one question here and there, and I might have been out because of section cutoff. So I was just sailing on the borderline. So this is the situation I was in, and that was my best. XLRI Jamshedpur was my best shot. So my preparation entailed. So they start off with a few questions that they'll give you. It would be an SOP or simply a few questions about yourselves. I think those questions are very crucial because they'll help you drive your own interview, which is what I did. Because like Avijit said, my undergrad scores were not outstanding. I'm not someone who was very confident about my capabilities in chemical engineering. So if somebody were to ask me about heat transfer, there's a good possibility that I might not have been able to answer. So I knew how I had to drive my interview. This being said, they asked me about how do I keep myself organized. I told them my work schedule and sort of then incidents that change your life. Then they also talked about my work experience, my SOP simple. So the key point that I later figured out, because at my percentile, my waitlist was in almost closer to people who had 99.5 plus percentile. So there must be something that went right for me in the interviews, because I was not expecting a conflict. And I was surprised when I said that I had a waitlist letter from XLRI Delhi and Jamshedpur. So I just didn't see my result for that matter. There's an interesting story regarding that later. So the interview specifically, the bits and pieces that I particularly remember were because I was coming from an experience. So most of the titles, mostly are not explained. So let's say I was a product analyst or I was an analytics associate particular firm. Most of the interviewers will not know the nitty-gritty of your job. So it is your job to tell them what exactly do you do. Should come out either by verbal or by when you've written those answers, that this is the job that I take. This is my expertise. These are my takeaways. How that helps is that they specifically be asking you about questions that you already mentioned. So let's say in my case, all my programs that I was working heavily on analytics, I was more focused on the modern part of this in the firm that I was working. So, and the more research in the domain of the industry, which was pharmaceutical, that I was more concerned with. So the interview started asking me questions related to analytics. I answered basic questions, but after a while I was not very comfortable. I said, I'm not very comfortable with these, but I know a good deal about, I explicitly mentioned that because at that time COVID was also sort of peaking, so I knew a good deal about the pharma industry. So I talked about that US pharma is something that I'm really good at, and they asked me a lot of questions and how COVID was going to impact the world, how is work from home going to change, is it going to remain, and a lot of questions regarding that. And throughout this entire duration, there was a good conversational flow. Then there was a little probing about the technical part of my first job, but it was not very troublesome for me personally, because I knew I was very focused in terms of what I'd worked on. Don't suggest options that might be unethical in nature. If they're asking you any questions that might be gauging your moral compass, will you be unethical in this situation? The answer will always be no. Right? So these nitty-gritties, reading more about the institution, what it stands for, XLRI specifically, would help a great deal to crack this interview. Yeah, I think that's all I had in terms of the interview experience.
So I think that's pretty much about, the conversation that right from your exam to convert Auxiliary Jamshedpur. बहुत सारी चीजें हमने डिस्कस की which will definitely help students. And one last suggestion, whatever you guys want to add, so that we can just wrap up this conversation.
So it's 5 days to go. Just brush up whatever you have done. The idea is to maximize what you already know. Second, stay calm. Last day, one day, make it or break it. You don't even know what might happen after this day. So the idea is to be cool about it. Like, let's not get too stressed over it. It's just an exam. I've given many before this, given CAT. That's another exam. If you go to the exam with this mentality, you will be at a lot more peace during the exam. And it's a 2 or 45-minute exam. Lots of time to come back into the paper. No sectional time limit. No as such sectional order. So just manipulate it to the best of your abilities and just try to do the best you can. And you never know, you might be a junior next year. So go for it.
Yes, Aman.
Yeah, so one thing I would say is back your strengths, obviously. And second is look at this place. And I think I personally believe that Excel is a great place to be at. A good driver is to look at the final destination we'll be ending up at.
Yes, Aman.
Yeah, so one thing I would say is back your strengths, obviously. And second is look at this place. And I think I personally believe that Excel is a great place to be at. A good driver is to look at the final destination we'll be ending up at.
So that's all about this episode. I hope you like this video. You can let us know your queries, concerns in the comment section below, so that we can cover up either in the live session with these students, these guys, answering your questions related to PI. Baki, stay connected. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe.